Hi, y'all. It's Jenny again from your hillbilly state here in America. I am halfway through Chris Morris's Lucy Letby analysis. His interview, his latest interview that released today. Today is Friday, with Michelle Warden. Oh, that woman is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. If I ever come to the United Kingdom, I'd love to meet her. She's just a wonderful, wonderful nurse. So everything she says is spot on. Now, what she mentions there is fascinating and interesting. And basically, it is all about the funding in the United Kingdom. Okay? And please do apologize for my very crude drawing here. I'm about as tech savvy as your typical 65-year-old granny. And what she says here, it just so mirrors the United States. And guess who she said started it through the back door was Tony Blair. I don't know if you all know this, but Tony Blair is essentially a protege of Bill Clinton, our president. His people that got Bill Clinton elected, I don't know if you know this, but he sent them over to the United Kingdom in order to do whatever Bill Clinton did in order to get elected. It was his people that helped Tony Blair get elected. So I am sorry. Again, Bill Clinton, when it comes to the Epstein's files, well, he's making your Prince Andrew look like a rank amateur. He was on that island a hell of a lot more. So again, I as an American, I'm ashamed of what Jeffrey Epstein has wrought and brought onto, and the pain now he has wrought. Although Prince Andrew is can only blame himself, but you know what? It was Jeffrey Epstein, an American, that got the ball rolling. So let me explain to you. And basically what she's saying is that basically y'all tried to adopt the American way of doing things. Well, I'm going to show you how it does not work for you guys. And then basically it used to be in the days of old before these trusts came. I think individual hospitals or areas were given a certain budget and they were internally allowed to decide how that money was to be spent in order to help the local community. Again, that was a lot like we had the same kind of situation going on here. Although we were not government funded per se, we had a series. Most of our hospitals were either educational based or religiously based, so they came with a certain ethic. And then that just all started changing and that started changing. Well, it started in the 1980s. There has to be some cost cutting, and that was before Bill Clinton's time. But when Bill and his wife Hillary came in, boy, that had a massive change in the way we do medical. A lot of it has to do is that they tried to do single payer, which is what you all are based on. And that scared a lot of insurance companies, and a lot of insurance companies were bought out by the big boys. And it used to be a lot of these insurance companies were more of a kind of a local situation, more ethics bound. And once it became corporate, and again, that all came on with, and again, Bill Clinton had his wife Hillary try to put the single payer on us. That's when it became corporate and that's when the giant of insurance companies, and that's when they were starting the whole deny crap. So again, you all just adopted our crap system. But here is, in a nutshell, basically kind of how our system is. Now, each city, each metropolitan area, it might be a little bit different, but they're kind of sort of like this. Let's just take your average big city in a state. It's probably going to have more than one university, and it's probably going to have more than one medical school. A lot of so this medical school is going to have a main teaching hospital. They will be competing. They're going to compete against each other. They want to be the better medical school than the other one. So they're going to try to out medical school each other. And they want their hospitals, that's where most of their interns and residents are, their trainees, you would call them registers and junior doctors. Senior house officers will be in this hospital and will get their training. And a lot of these hospitals will also, it's a big general hospital. Think of whatever your big general hospitals are, your best hospitals. And it will probably have a little hospital, children's hospital that's associated with that too. Okay, Now these are money losers. All right. How they survive is that they get the big grants from the big grants from our federal grants. We have the NIH, federal gives them all their grants for research. So that's how they survive. And that's the only way they survive. But another way they survive is that they usually have another hospital underneath them that's within the system. So think of this as three different trusts, okay? This is the kind of hospital I initially started out here at the big university hospital, and then later on I ended my career at here. And this one here usually is well, this one, the university hospital, is downtown, not in the best of areas. This one here is going to be in a good, that's your money maker. It's going to be in a good neighborhood. It's going to attract the people that have insurance coverage. It's the people that basically, it's going to provide a lot of bread and butter stuff, your gallbladder surgeries. And people want to go to these hospitals because they tend to be a little bit more boutique, if you get my drift, a little bit more in services. And then there's going to be some other hospitals, more of kind of rural, or, this one's your next biggest, and then it kind of goes down, and then sometimes they may own some rural. But basically, it's going to be usually in a metropolitan area. Now usually if you have two competing medical schools, one is going to be a better one than the other. So this one cannot have as many hospitals associated with this, but it's going to be another trust that's doing it. And this trust does not have, it only has a very few little hospitals. It's really struggling. So it's kind of going to some degree, associated with this, and it's going to kind of help feed into this one here too. So they're all kind of, to some degree, support each other. Now, there could be there's also a lot of times a big, huge, another trust that is not university-based, but it also has a moneymaker. But what it does is how it's able to survive is that it's able to spread its wings out. So this one is more of a multi-state. It's going to have a good presence here in this city, but it's going to have a lot of satellites in other areas. So then that can feed onto that. And the whole thing here is to kind of feed the beast. All right. Now these university hospitals and these systems, individual systems, let's just take the system per se. It's heavily into the media. They spend a lot of money advertising, a lot of billboards, a lot of commercials, a lot of TV ads, radio ads such as, and saying, oh, we can give you world-class medicine, this and that, and we're associated this. If, God forbid, if you have the most rarest of rare disease, we can do this. Or if you need the latest in technology, the latest MRI, the latest type of surgical technique, the latest this, the latest that, come to us. Or if you don't want to come to us, that's okay. Come to our moneymaker, our other ones here. That's okay, because if God, that need arises, we're going to feed you into that. So again, it's a lot of competition here. And this one here will still say too. Now this one here, now these university hospitals, they produce some really good doctors and stuff. So this one here, they're all competing. They're all trying to get, I can guarantee you these doctors, they form physician groups. If they're not liking over here, they're going to go over here or over there. So it's all this competition to do that. Now, also, the problem here is that we have our bean counters. They're the accountants, and each hospital system has their own bean counters. I call them the bean counters. They're the accountants. They're the business, they got their MBA business degrees, or they're usually people like nurses or doctors that can't hack it on the floor and can't hack it as a primary care kind of doctor or a floor nurse. So what they do is they get their degrees and they get into this, That's what I mean when the cream doesn't rise to the top. So they're going to do whatever they can to cost cut. So they're constantly cutting staff. They're constantly cutting this. They're constantly cutting that. Same thing that the NHS does. But eventually it will catch up to them, because if they cost cut too much, their little boutique hospitals, people aren't going to want to go to them too. Now, insurance companies too. I mean, who pays the insurance premiums? It's usually a corporation. And they want to, they're going to want to some degree, they're not going to be able to get the best employees unless they have a decent insurance thing too. So there is some thing as to, and again, there's so many different insurance companies out there. They can choose, they can go to Blue Cross one time or United Healthcare the next too. So there is some, to some degree, insurance company does want to provide a service because they're not going to make money unless, that corporation is going to have a contract with them too. And, insurance companies also, there is some competition. They have, you just can't go to any hospital with your insurance company. You have to go to the one that the insurance company approves. So again, if the insurance, they can only cost cut too much. And then, again, in competition, this hospital can only say, oh, we're not going to take your contract because you're just not going to give us enough money. So there's a give and take on both sides. Now, a lot of this hospital here is think of them as three bullies in the sandbox, and they're all fighting, okay? And here, those three bullies are fighting in that one sandbox, but, they each have their own flying monkeys, all right? Kind of fighting on their turf and helping them. And in addition to these hospitals, they have what I call the sharks. Those are the lawyers. These lawyers here are going to keep these sharks at bay, okay? And the sharks at bay, I mean the lawyers that are just out to find, that mother that died needlessly, that patient that bled out to death in the ER or whatever, and the big money makers. So they're here to do that here, but they're also here to keep the regulatory sharks at bay too. And the regulatory, they do get some fundings from, you can't just be a hospital. You have to be approved by your state, where there's 50 states, and your federal. That's the whole, all United States. And if you don't get those approvals from those bodies, you don't have the license to be a hospital. So again, everyone's got to keep everyone happy here. Now, the sharks, again, these sharks just love to make money here, but these regulatory things, man, these politicians and these regulators, they just love to swoop in. Nothing is more, shall we say, dopamine enhancing as them to find some sort of a problem. So then they can say, I'm going to cut the funding. And you know what? They can close your hospital. They can fine that hospital millions of dollars for not coding things correctly and this and that. Again, we're all fighting in this sandbox here. Now, again, these sharks here and these things here are going to lobby too. They're going to be lobbying big money here too. How do you think politicians fund their campaigns? It's their lobbyings, the sharks and the bean counters. And again, we do have kind of single payer to some degree. If you're poor and you have to meet dirt poor things, you could get something called Medicaid, okay? And that's a regulatory thing. Or you can get something called Medicare. And Medicare is usually think of it as healthcare for the pensioners. I paid into it all my working life, and now I can pay into this, and I can pretty much, to some degree, go to any hospital because the payer now is not an insurance company. The payer now is the federal government because I paid into that too. Now, unlike the United States, a lot of these hospitals here, they kind of like us part-timers. And I, to some degree, I was a part-timer a lot of times because I had small children. My preemie baby had a lot of respiratory issues. She had to outgrow that due to part of it due to the fact that she didn't start out life good. And so, it was hard to balance that work-life balance and take care of her. And I had another small child too. So luckily I had a husband that, had a good job. He can provide the medical insurance we needed. And I did part-time work, and and hospitals love us part-timers because they don't have to pay insurance premiums. and give us all the benefits that they're required to do. So it was a really good situation for me. And then when my children pretty much grew up and I could then go full time, that's when I started to have issues with both sides of the family. We had a disabled brother-in-law with developmentally disabled that had a lot of chronic medical issues. Actually had to go on dialysis. And then I had aging parents with a lot of the aging parents things. But so my career, it was a real good benefit for me to work part-time a lot of times. Although, some weeks I could work full-time. It was kind of that I would, that way, I again, it was a mutually benefits things too. But again, this is why did the NHS want to do the American system? Because essentially, you only have one system. So there's one big bully here. Again, and there's every reason for the politicians, the lawyers, the police, everything, the regulatory bodies to support that. When you just got one bully there, they're supporting this bully here versus being an antagonistic thing. Now, how our systems developed in the beginning, how they were born, were totally different things. You can't amalgamate. Just as we can't become single payer, we're just too big. We're just too decentralized. You cannot adopt the American system. And again, there's these bean counters are going to go against these bean counters, are going to go fight against these bean counters, versus if you just have all this at once, no wonder you're going to get a Lucy Letby to go there. And you're going to hide things. If you don't have a shark or regulatory body that wants to go after you, because guess what? If this falls, that's not a problem, people, in my city. Because we have all these other here. Literally, they will buy out these individual hospitals, and this hospital will go to here and then become that. And then this then bully becomes a bigger bully. So there's something that can absorb into that. Or if this hospital here, let's just say it closes, and I worked at a hospital that had to close because it wasn't doing well with the regulatory. That's no problem. This system here is just going to build a different, either that will buy it or that will close and that'll just become like a vacant parking lot. That's okay. This hospital here is going to build another hospital that can serve that community that went there. So again, it's just, I am so sorry that that our system is being absorbed into yours. I'm an American. I'm a proud American. I'm proud of my country. We are a force of good. But please don't try to copy us. All right? Because there are things that may or may not work for us that's not going to work for you. And I do hope, and I do pray, and I hope everything that comes down the pike, everything that comes out about Jeffrey Epstein, I want it out. I want it in an open. And I want America to own up to it just as much as I want the NHS to own up to the Lucy Letby. So, again, I like the UK. You've given us so much greatness too, and I think we've given back to you. We've helped you in times of need, just as you provided such happiness in my life. And you know what? Our whole basis of our Constitution is based on the Magna Carta, and a lot of it also is from Adam Smith, which was part of the Scottish Enlightenment, his Wealth of Nations. Again, we took from you what was great, and I hope that at some point you can take from us what is great, but not our medical system. It's too adversarial. It is meant to be adversarial. Now, we've got a lot of problems with this that we need to fix. I don't know how we can fix it. I don't know if going to single payer is the thing. I don't know. I think it's just it's so screwed up. I don't know if we can fix it. But again, I am fearful that, and one of the reasons I'm kind of here with the Lucy Letby thing is that I'm afraid that, and there have been, we have a couple of, so-called nurse serial killers that I need to look into, were they too a precursor to Lucy Letby. One came right after Beverly Allitt, and another one came about 10 years ago, which around the time of Lucy Letby. Again, do we have our own Lucy Letbys too? And I am also concerned, as many of our systems, many of our hospitals too, are struggling just as much as the NHS. Are they now going to turn on nurses too, more than they do? So y'all take care.